After using the new X2N from Pulsar for a solid 2 weeks, I'm finally here to give you my full review. As a quick disclaimer, these products were indeed sent out to me by Pulsar, but as always, my thoughts and opinions are not purchasable and will always be my own. And also do keep in mind that reviews are mainly subjective and that you might not view things the same way that I do. Getting right into the unboxing experience, it is absolutely nothing crazy. It's the same thing as any other Pulsar mouse right now. Inside of the packaging, you obviously get your mouse. You get a color matched receiver that also blinks in blue if you're low on battery. You get an accent matched USB-A to USB-C cable that is definitely on the stiffer side, but also actually kinked. You get a sticker, some paperwork, and then also their UHMWPE skates that have actually now been rounded. They used to be super flat and pretty much unusable, but now that they're rounded, I can definitely recommend using these on glass. In terms of weight, the medium version is advertised at 45 grams with the skates installed, which perfectly matches my unit over here at 45 grams, and my X2N Mini with the capsule skates installed here comes in at just below 40 grams, which is a very nice weight to see. In terms of the weight balancing, these units feel absolutely fine to me personally. I don't notice any crazy heaviness towards the front, although it doesn't feel absolutely perfect, but it's definitely nothing that has ever bothered me in-game. In terms of the build quality, I can definitely flex these mice a bit more than their usual Crazylight units, but it is still incredibly rigid, especially compared to other mice in this type of a weight category. They are incredibly solid and you can definitely never feel any type of lack of build quality inside of your games. There is no side-to-side movement on the main buttons, there is no switch grinding. The side buttons don't entirely press into the shell or anything like that, and the entire mouse feels very, very rigid and super well engineered and built. Now let's get into the juicy part of these mice, the shape. Whilst the N in the X2N name of this mouse stands for narrow, even on the X2N Mini here on the left side, it really isn't that narrow. Over here on the right side, you can see the X2H Crazylight Mini, which is a tiny bit more narrow towards the front and maybe also in terms of the grip width, but overall the difference is incredibly minimal and I don't know why this mouse was called an X2N. As you can see, in terms of the overall steepness of the hump compared to the X2H, these two mice are actually quite similar. The overall design language is just a lot more elongated, so what this Mini actually ends up feeling is much more like a medium mouse. The overall vibes, especially here with the X2N Mini that I get, is pretty much just a symmetrical NPO1S. The NPO1S is definitely not known for being a super small mouse or anything like that, so here you can see that the X2N Mini definitely is more like a medium-sized shape. You can see that the rear side of the curvature draws some inspiration from the NPO1S, but the best way that I could possibly describe this type of shape to you is that it's an X2H that is just longer and a bit more inflated. When I actually grip this mouse, the hump definitely feels similar to the X2H, but it doesn't feel as incredibly steep and drastic. The X2N hump is a bit less wide and a bit less restrictive. And if you want to know just how big the X2N Medium is, here is a direct comparison to the X2 Mini, and you can see that the X2N Medium is just so much bigger. Here's also side-by-side comparison between the X2N Medium and the X2 Mini, and you can just see how enormous this mouse is compared to it. Even when comparing it directly to a Viper V3 Pro, this thing looks freaking huge, and that's because it is. In terms of grip styles, I would definitely recommend this for any type of claw or even a palm grip. Over here on the X2 Mini, I can comfortably use it with an aggressive claw grip and my 19 by 10 centimeter hands. I also definitely get a solid pincer contact over on this side. And when holding it with my grip, I have more than enough space all over the mouse, and I really do not think that this is a proper Mini. I would think more of the X2N Mini being a medium-sized mouse, and the medium version feels a lot more like an actual large. It is very big, it has a big hump, it is bulbous, and it's also very long. Here's what my grip looks like over here on the medium. I actually almost end up at the center of the mouse buttons, which I normally never do. And my thumb is even below the sensor just because this thing is so big. For a fingertip grip, I would probably not recommend any of these mice just because the hump is so big and it can obstruct your grip inside of your palm. So where these mice shine is for pretty much any type of claw grip or even a palm grip just because the hump is so big and has such a high profile. For an aggressive claw grip with 19 by 10 centimeter hands, I can definitely recommend the Mini version. And even if your hands are a bit bigger, you can comfortably use this thing with an aggressive claw grip, but with a relaxed claw grip, that quickly changes. If you stretch out your fingers fully, you're definitely edging it with 19 centimeter long hands here. So I will definitely say that for a relaxed type of claw grip with around 18.5 centimeters is going to be the absolute limit. But anything below that is obviously going to work well. But if you go over to the medium version of the X2N, I can probably recommend this to anyone with 21cm hands or maybe even 22cm hands, just because this thing is really big. If you have an aggressive claw grip and you have enormous hands, I can actually recommend this to you just because it has so much length. And for a relaxed type of claw grip, I can also comfortably recommend it all the way up to around 21cm hands. If you've been enjoying the content so far, definitely make sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell right next to it to show your support, and also just to be notified for any upcoming reviews. And getting right back into the video, the coating is still pretty much the same. It feels very grippy even if you have cold and dry hands, and also if you have very sweaty and hot hands. This also seems to be working pretty well, since somebody like Stubby FPS with hyperhidrosis who has super sweaty hands actually loves using this Crazylight series. So it definitely is one of the best coatings on the market, and it just works phenomenally well. In terms of the skates, absolutely nothing has changed. You're still using their opaque, white, 100% PTFE skates that feel absolutely fine, but definitely not the fastest and the smoothest out there. They also do have ridges around the skates, which feel absolutely awful on softer pads, so if you use a softer type of mouse pad, I cannot recommend you any of these mice, unless you put absolute zero force into your mouse pad when clicking and tracking. But if you really want the perfect skate experience, I'll link some skates down in the description below, because these are not perfect in my opinion. In terms of the switches, they're still using their Pulsar optical switches, which are just adjusted FE opticals. They're a bit more on the tactile side, so you can definitely feel that snappy, crisp click when you use the buttons. The further you go towards the front, the more post-travel you will have, and especially if you click towards the middle, it is a tiny bit exaggerated. In my personal experience, this is nothing that has ever bothered me, and I actually do like the rebound that comes back at me, but for some people this might not be too favorable. The clicks, in my opinion, are spammable enough, but they're not the most spammable out there just because they're more on the tactile side. And the closer you go to the beginning of the main buttons, the more heavy it's going to feel, but it's not absolutely unusable here. In terms of the side buttons, there is minimal pre-travel, and the post-travel is also not exaggerated. I cannot press the side buttons into the entire mouse shell. The side buttons are definitely a bit more on the stiffer side, so they're not super spammable or anything like that. The scroll is nice and spammable, yet you can still feel those steps. And it's honestly pretty much perfect. You also do have more than enough grip with this type of knurling, and the scroll click is a bit more on the heavier side. And as always, here's a sound test for you guys. Getting into the sensor position, if you don't know what it is and what it actually does to your aim, definitely check out the links down in the description below. Looking at the side buttons, you can see that the side buttons are definitely shifted towards the front of the mouse. But even then, if you draw a line from the center of the side buttons, it still aligns perfectly with the sensor. So that means that this sensor is actually moved slightly above the center of the mouse. As you can see here on the medium version of the mouse, you can see that the side buttons are also shifted a bit more towards the front of the mouse. So please do keep that in mind if that is something that you care about. And when drawing the line of the center of those side buttons, it yet again aligns perfectly with the sensor. So even if you put your thumb at exactly where the center of the curvature is, you still end up a tiny bit below the sensor. In terms of the battery life, performance, all that type of stuff, it is all the same. Nothing has changed for almost 2 years with Pulsar now. They're still using Convex. The battery life on the turbo mode with 20k FPS scanning is still absolutely horrendous, and you cannot expect the battery life to be any longer than around 12 hours with high polling. But as soon as you do disable the turbo mode, these mice definitely last you more than just those 12 hours, and you can comfortably use it on something like 4K polling for an entire week. In terms of the software, I'm just going to link it down in the description below for you guys this time, and if you want to see the software more in depth, check out the video up here in the top right corner, because it is all the same. Nothing has changed. You also do not get the fancy new receiver. It's still just the old receiver that you have here with no types of buttons or anything like that. And with all of that in mind, let's just get into the conclusion, because this is a pretty simple launch and nothing really has changed. It's just a new shape from Pulsar with the same internals all over again, with some new colors, and also the same price tag that you can see here on screen, which I personally do not agree with. Since you do not get any types of mouse grips or extra pad skates or anything like that, you do get the additional UHMWPE dot skates, which are actually now rounded and also do feel great on glass, which I can definitely recommend for that. But other than that, I do think that there's just so much competition on the market that makes these mice very expensive compared to them. I really do think that this shape has its place on the market because I actually enjoy using it a lot, and as you can see on screen, I've been playing very comfortably with it, and I can definitely hit all of my shots as I can with any other mouse that I personally vibe with in terms of the overall size and shape. And if you've always wanted a symmetrical MP01S, I do think that this reminds me a lot of just that. But I also just think that 150 euros before shipping is a shit ton of money for something that is nothing new, it's just a new shape. They have indeed been using the same internals for 2 entire years now, and if you really care about performance, you should definitely look somewhere else. But if you just want a very functional mouse with a great warranty period and also supposedly very good support, I can comfortably recommend it if that is something that you really do care about. But for those of you seeking for value, this is not gonna be it. Anyway, that's about it for this video. I'm just stoked to have a new shape in my arsenal. As always, if you want to show your support for the channel, I would always highly appreciate that, no matter if that's a sub or a donation down in the link in the description, or stepping by whenever I'm live over on Twitch or here on YouTube. It really does mean the world to me, and I'll see you guys very soon. Huge shout out to the members of this channel, and if you want to show your support, that's obviously going to be an option as well. And I'll see you guys pretty soon. Peace out.